I'm back on the Jeep again. I want to start working on the back end here, and the first thing to do is to get rid of this heavy steel plate that's been unceremoniously welded over the wheel wells. I've got to get some more cutoff wheels to finish cutting this side off, but I know this wheel well all needs to get replaced. The passenger side at first glance looks pretty rough, but this is actually what I was hoping for. I'd only seen it from the bottom, and I knew that it was rusted out around where the spare tire brace is in this back corner. But the rest of it, I mean, there's still some original paint there, and most of it seems pretty solid, so I think this is salvageable. It's going to be rough, but... So on second glance, there's some pitting and pinholes here. I'm going to think on this one, put this decision off for later, what I'm going to do about that, and just come up with a game plan for the rest of it now. So the first video I did was on hammer forming, and I'm going to hammer form this piece, and just cut basically right along here, and all the way back to here, back to this seam. And then, like the second video that was about bending things with the sheet metal brake, just replace this entire panel and probably come up along the side here and kind of cheat this, get the piece of the wheel well that needs to be replaced. Originally this would have been pinch welded together here. I'm going to cheat and just make it one piece. Then there's supposed to be a piece across the bottom here, so I'll fold that up. And then on this side, also replace the tail light panel and just kind of come down somewhere through here. I think I'll try to knock this one out. I'm reusing the forms I'd made previously for doing the pieces along the wheel arch. I just need to modify them slightly. Well, I think that more or less looks the part. Now the tricky part, which is making it curve around. First problem is going to be to figure out what this curve is supposed to be. We'll look at this side too. Best guess is it's a 3-inch radius, but it's so beat up it's kind of hard to tell. I made a quick 3-inch radius gauge on the laser engraver. It's not a great fit on this side, but this side has less damage and it seems pretty good there. So I think I'm going to go with that. I marked the tangent points on here too. Just need to figure out where they fall on here. I've got the start and end of my curve laid out here. In order to make this curve, I essentially have to make this edge shorter than that edge. I suppose I could kind of pie cut that and then weld it back together. But VVPRO sent me this shrinker stretcher a few months ago, and it's been sitting here waiting to do just this. This is the most basic one. You have to swap the shrinking and stretching dies in it. But for what I'm doing, not going to use this a whole lot. Don't want to take up a lot of space with it. I think that's going to serve me pretty well. Let me go ahead and... This is just a piece of scrap I had that's about the right size and shape for this. Had some old weld on it that I needed to clean up, and I wasn't sure if there were going to be some hard spots with it, so I used a bunch of anchor lube on it. Cleaned up pretty nice. Just got a couple of clamps holding this onto the workbench. So the way this works is it has little jaws here, and the jaws will clamp down on the metal and then basically just squish it together. And this one is conveniently labeled shrinker. The other set of jaws is conveniently labeled stretcher, and it does the same thing except it spreads the metal apart instead of pulling it together. Starting to see some shape in the bottom of this. The rest of it I kind of need to do by hand. Well, I'd say that worked pretty well and looks pretty good. I think it's time to start getting rid of some rusty metal. Got this thing massaged back into shape a little bit better. It's still not quite right. I've got this crack on the top here, so if I pull this back, it kind of only flexes this piece instead of the whole thing. That should be straight up and down. So we'll get rid of the crack. I'm also taking this opportunity to start getting rid of some of the holes from the 8 different soft tops that were on here over the years. I've got this little piece of copper I'm using to back up the holes. It's a pretty good technique for MIG welding holes. So after a bit more massaging, it's not perfect, but I'm at the point where the more I do on it, the less better it gets, so I think I'm going to call that good enough. I was going to start fitting this panel on before I removed this one, but the more I look at it, this is sort of marginally attached at this point. I think I'm going to be better off just replacing the whole back at once. I figured now would be the easiest time to drill the holes for the taillights. I based these off of my best guess of which set of holes were the originals. Looking at it later, I don't think I got it right, but it is what it is. I think it'll be fine. This is a lot of effort to get it up that far. As always, everything's getting a coat of weldable primer. So I had planned on trying to save as much of this panel as I could and started kind of massaging this back into shape, but after looking at it more, I'm gonna have to patch in a piece here and try to get this more or less into the right shape. Since I've already got a form made up for this piece, I think I'm just gonna replace the whole thing. Well, I went a little too far on that one. Changing these jaws out the first time was a bit of a challenge. They were just a really tight fit. I think once some of the paint gets scraped off, it'll be a little bit easier. It was already easier getting them switched back over the second time. Overall, I'm happy with how this thing works. It's one of those tools that does exactly what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna call that good. I think there are about 2 inches of metal still holding this wheel well in, so I think it's time to get rid of it. Use your guards. If you're familiar with these old Jeeps, you'll know there's supposed to be a kick up in the middle here that I didn't put in there. That's to clear around this pintle hitch mount, but I don't think I'm going to use this, so I'm going to get rid of it. And if you're worried about me cutting bracing out of the frame, the intermediate CJ5s didn't have this brace, and they actually had the gas tank here. It's not uncommon for people to relocate the gas tank from under the driver's seat. I'm actually going to use this space for battery boxes because I'm converting this to electric. If you don't like that idea, just pretend I'm going to put the gas tank back here. A few viewers have recommended the cut and butt method from the channel Fitzy's Fabrications. That worked really well on this piece. Since we've been getting a lot of rain lately and this thing's been living outside, I've been kind of throwing some primer on it at the end of each day. Let's continue pretending that I'm not just going to replace this entire wheel well and patch up the front here. Went a little too deep when I drilled out these spot welds, so I'm just going to drill it from this side and plug weld it back up. I can tell there's a bit of rot up under here. I was going to be lazy and not do anything about it, but probably should deal with it. There's really only one angle I can shoot from without the camera being in my way, and the light was getting kind of harsh, so I'd finish this up off camera. I'm still not at the point where I'm making my welds completely disappear, and I've got some little pinholes I should probably go touch up again. But I'm starting to feel like by the time I'm done with this project, I'm going to have developed the skills to actually do this project. I've been slowly starting to do some panel beating and body work on this and some of my previous work. And it's getting there. Needs a lot more, but I'm pretty happy with how this has come out so far. I still need to rebuild this wheel well. That'll be coming up. But before I do that, I want to get these bumpers straightened out so I can get some rear body mounts in. So if you want to see that, you know what to do. Thanks for watching.